Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this Thursday's MBE movie news. Never a good start when you leave the stream starting soon graphic on as the intro animation plays out. That's perhaps an ominous sign of what's to come. I can't get my mic to sit right either, but look, I digress. It's John Christopher Walsh here again, giving myself my full name. Back to discuss some movie news, the latest ongoings from the world of Hollywood, and look, from the world of Star Wars as well. As you've probably gathered, if you've clicked on the video, you've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the headline. It's all about everyone's favourite lone gun slinger and the potential for this character to perhaps have his very own standalone movie at some point in the yet to be determined future. Questions been getting pondered by MovieWeb, but in all honesty by various sources, because I did have another article opened and it was asking the same question. And the reason that we are discussing this tonight is because the story group and I think the actual Star Wars team, they say here in this headline, have been teasing that very possibility that this character could maybe at some point make that jump from small screen Disney Plus show to large screen big blockbuster feature length movie. And look, we'll get into the article briefly, then I'll read the quote down below. Start off by saying, of course, as the Mandalorian Season 2 approaches, a question has been posed. Could a Mandalorian movie be in the cards? Star Wars has traditionally been a cinematic experience, with the exception of animated shows like The Clone Wars and Rebels. But that all changed last year when the first live-action TV show set within a galaxy far, far away, I presume, dropped. They've sort of left that word out, but I'm going to add it in. Producer, writer Jon Favreau and star Pedro Pascal are very much open to bringing things full circle. And look, you see the quote there, and they were asked about that possibility, and they say they've made things a little bit hazier for now by saying the line is blurring now. Things that you would have only seen in the movie theatre, you are now seeing on streaming, and I think it could go the other way as well. They're going to say, I think the work is so beautiful that I would love that to be held by a big screen experience, but it seems to work so well that I'm also not sure it's something that I would want corrupted by any kind of change, you know. I mean, I certainly know that the challenge can be met. It's not like these people don't have the experience. If anybody can do it, they can. And look, do I think this is a likelihood? That's why I'm speaking about it after all. Well, a double-edged sword. I think it certainly is a likely thing that could transpire in the future if the will is there from Lucasfilm. If Kathleen Kennedy buggers off into the horizon and we get a progressive person in charge of Lucasfilm, in charge of Star Wars as a direct connection to that, in the vein of a Jon Favreau, someone who is deeply connected to these stories, who's deeply connected to the mythology, the characters, everything in between from a galaxy far, far away, then it's certainly possible that Pedro Pascal could be taking his lone gunslinger, the Mandalorian character, to the big screen experience. I don't think it's anything that's going to be happening within the next 5 years. I think they are definitely restructuring Disney to focus primarily on streaming and Disney Plus at the moment. It's a very uncertain world for everybody in all facets of life, not just the film industry and the experience of going to see movies at the theatres. That's obviously been directly impacted, probably worse than maybe any other industry, if you like. Some hospitalities of sectors have opened up, pubs, restaurants, theatres, and just the movie experience has been really disrupted in the year of 2020. I don't know how much is going to return to normality next year. Therefore, I don't see Disney changing this strategy within the next year or two. I feel like they are going to consolidate the Disney Plus thing with the Marvel shows, with these Star Wars shows set to come out, Cassian Andor series, Obi-Wan, this all-female Star Wars show. There's talk of a whole array of other things being in the pipeline. Talk of a time-travelling Darth Vader TV show at one point. So I feel like they're going to focus on the TV element. They're going to try and get that subscription base up on Disney Plus. Just try and flex their muscles in this streaming battle between the likes of Netflix, Amazon, Apple TV Plus. And the only way to do that is to give us compelling content that we want to watch on the small screen. And if there's still will for this character, if there's still a love for him, if we still have the child floating around, if Gina Carano's character is still hanging around, who's to say we won't get a Mandalorian movie in the next 4 or 5 years? I don't see it happening any sooner than that, though. Why would I be firmly against it? Well, if I was to play devil's advocate and say, why would I be against it? Well, I want to see this character just doing his thing on the small screen. I want them to use the films and the new phase of Disney storytelling within the Star Wars galaxy solely as a new opportunity to create new characters and new horizons and new worlds, new planets, everything. I want it to go off a completely new era. This is set in between that era, between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. It's almost becoming busy, even though we've barely scratched the surface in this era, I suppose, compared to what happened between the prequels and the original trilogy. It's getting really busy. We've got lots of novels set in there, and it's too familiar. I want them to focus the movies on a new aspect of storytelling, new characters. I don't want to see the Mandalorian making the jump quite yet to a film of his own. And then if I was to play devil's advocate once again, I would say, perhaps controversially, the Mandalorian character isn't befitting of his own character, his own movie just now. Sorry, I get put off by an alarming bang there, but I'll refocus. I don't think he's befitting, right as things speak, of his own movie. I just don't think he's a compelling enough character right now. He's certainly interesting, but you could argue the star of his own show is the child. He was completely outshone by a puppet. So does that speak glowingly of it? The character, does it say that this is a character that needs its own show? We can't even get an Obi-Wan our own movie, I should say. We can't get an Obi-Wan movie. A Boba Fett movie was sidelined for years. Nearly had one coming in fairly recently from a very astute director. It didn't happen. So I don't think he's a character right now who's deserving of his own movie, is what I would say as well. But equally, playing devil's advocate and going on the positive side of things, Pedro Pascal, an incredibly talented actor. Favreau created this. It was out of his own brain. This is a man who's worked with Disney before, on the likes of The Lion King, on The Jungle Book, on Iron Man. This is a man who knows how to make big blockbuster movies and make money while doing these big blockbuster movies and get Oscar buzz as well in certain ones. I think The Jungle Book won for best animation, so CGI or effects or whatever, visual effects. So certainly they're right in what they say. They have the right people there with experience to make this work. It is something that could happen in the future, and I wouldn't write off Pedro Pascal delivering a feature-length movie-worthy performance. I wouldn't write off Favreau and whoever he got on board, perhaps a Waititi or a Bryce Dallas Howard or the other one, Deborah Chow. A whole array of possibilities could come in and direct this movie, and it could potentially work. So I'm not going to shit on it completely, but there's positives, there's pros and there's cons for why it might not work, why I wouldn't want to see it happen, and why it may very well work, and why I could possibly see it happen. But for now, don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Sadly for Pedro, sadly for Jon Favreau, I think they're going to focus on Disney Plus, making this character a big name on the streaming service, making him bring eyeballs in because they want more people subscribing, and then focus all of the creative juices on perhaps a new era, a new array of characters that are going to be interesting, hopefully, for the movie side of things. But look, time will tell. I'm just a goon from Glasgow. I'm passionate about Star Wars. I love it very much. I've been a fan since I was about 4 years old. So I want to see this universe, this franchise growing and sort of being a phoenix out of the ashes, because it was an absolute shit show what we got in that sequel trilogy and what we've had from Disney in the main so far. Final thing I would add, another reason which I didn't even think of prior to that, this story group, this canon group have just not been one for thinking out of the box in terms of utilising all of the canon and all of the different mediums within that canon, graphic novels, characters from them, bringing them into the movies. So far it's all been very sub-compartmentalised. Comics, novels, young adult novels, young novels, whatever you call them, I don't really read them. Movies, TV shows have all been compartmentalised into their various different categories. They've not really bled together. We've had little Easter eggs, but nothing much more than that. So I don't see them changing that strategy moving forward. But look guys, I'm going to move on to the second topic on the show tonight. I've just put the graphic up. Jesus H. Christ. Wow. And we're moving on to the next topic. And as you can see, it's all about James Bond, and Barbara Broccoli has been out speaking again. I believe it's Barbara with a fantastic name that I always trip over. is producer Barbara Broccoli. She has been out speaking about it, and she has been speaking about the successor to 007 and how they have not yet found said successor. They are still looking for the next actor to portray this new generation of James Bond. She's had this to say. She was speaking to somebody, I don't know who, but she revealed anyway. I always say you can only be in love with one person at a time. Technically not true, Barbara. You can be in love with multiple people if you're a bit of a finger in many pies type of person. But we'll go with what you're saying just now for the general gist of the topic. Once the films come out, then some time will pass, and then we'll have to get on to the business of the future. But for now, we just cannot think about anything beyond Daniel. Well, right away I say liar, like Kylo Ren in Star Wars. Liar, traitor, perhaps not a traitor, but definitely a liar. They have been looking for another James Bond. Believe me, this movie is shot, it's finished. Kari Yoji Fukunaga, I think is the director, stepped in for Danny Boyle. This movie's done. It's been in a sort of release hell for the last year. It's been pushed off to next year now, and I cannot for the life of me imagine any situation whereby a producer like Barbara Broccoli, who's hands-on in this character's development, hasn't been putting the feelers out at the minimum, I should say, for a new actor, if not full-blown sort of auditioning for this character. I mean, we've had so much rumours about Sam Heughan, Tom Hardy, Henry Golding's put his name in the hat. There's been a whole array of actors been put out there. Christ, I've seen Harry Styles is even getting talked up for potentially playing James Bond. I don't know what universe I would be living in if the ex-singer from One Direction ends up being the next James Bond. The man's not even a proper actor. He had a very brief role. It was a not bad role, to be fair to him, in Nolan's Dunkirk, but he's not an actor, is he? And he's certainly not a man who can play James Bond. He's a northern English chap. He speaks very slowly, not denying his talent as a musician and a singer, but he's not an actor, and he certainly shouldn't be the next James Bond. But that tangent aside, there is not a chance in hell that they have not picked their next James Bond yet, or they've not even contemplated discussing it. This bullshit about loyalty to Daniel Craig, how there can only be one love for one person at one time, and that they're going to wait till this film comes out and passes before they start looking into the casting of the next Bond. There's no chance. They have already broached the subject. They will be looking at casting calls and putting out auditions for this character and other characters. They'll already probably be doing concepts for the next story and where they're going to move on with titles and stuff like that. Not a chance. This movie has been delayed, and I did say at the time, my one issue with that was, not only was it financial suicide at the time because they initially released it on the same day as Fast and Furious 9 before it moved, but I thought it was a missed opportunity pushing this movie back out of 2020, pandemic aside, because it could have positioned itself as 2020's last big blockbuster. And as an aside to that, we could have got it out the way and then announced the next James Bond, and it could have built anticipation for the next era of storytelling with this character. They didn't do it. They pushed it back a year, and it's just delayed the announcement of the next Bond, and it's going to reach fever pitch. We're going to have bookies' odds going out left, right and centre about who's going to be the next actor to portray it. Final thing I'll add about it, it's bullshit. I don't believe her. She's absolutely talking shite. They've definitely looked at potential actors, but I just hope that if it's not Sam Heughan, another Scotsman, because I'm Scottish and I'm biased, perhaps a Madden or something like that, Richard Madden. If it isn't him, then why not Idris Elba, man? Give a person of colour, a black man like that, a dapper guy, a great actor, a chance to portray this absolutely iconic character moving forward, and just annoy all those bitchy little fanboys. I was going to say a word there, and I reined myself in. It took all of my willpower to do it, but I managed it. And on that note, guys, I'm going to move on to the next topic, and it's all about Leonardo Dicaprio, first and foremost, joining a truly stupendous Adam McKay movie called Don't Look Up. This movie's set to hit Netflix, and he's been joined by a truly star-studded cast, and I'm going to bring up one article, but in truth I had numerous articles opened about this very topic because it's a very intriguing topic, and I'm going to broach it from a variety of angles here. First and foremost, just the the pulling power of Adam McKay and what this guy brings for movies. I'm pretty sure this was the guy who gave us Vice fairly recently, the Dick Cheney movie, which starred, of course, Christian Bale, and a whole host of very exciting acting talent in that too. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I thought it was beautifully cast. Steve Carell, I'm sure, was playing George W. Bush. No, it was Sam Rockwell who was playing George W. Bush, and I really enjoyed the movie. So it's, again, you see the pulling power of this guy. Leonardo Dicaprio, he's going to be joined by Jennifer Lawrence, and I believe Meryl Streep's in there as well. There's the other one. Strangely, Digital Spy going with Ariana Grande. Before Meryl Streep and Leonardo DiCaprio. Now I know she's a blockbuster singer, but really, is she a bigger name than Meryl Streep, one of the greatest actors of all time, and Leonardo DiCaprio, one of the great actors of our generation? I don't think so. But I'm coming back to this Cinema Blend, I hope it is, article, and yeah, the general gist, it was back in February. The good news, they do say here that Jennifer Lawrence was going to be teaming up with the writer-director Adam McKay on Don't Look Up. It was a comedy about the end of the world, and it's so befitting of what we're experiencing right now. It almost feels like the end of the world. We have Donald Trump dancing on stages, screaming about being immune to a virus, and the world's being shut down. There's all sorts of crazy shit going on. It feels like the end of the world as we know it, to quote one REM. And look, this seems like a perfect match. She says they get instantly excited. I didn't at that point, because Jennifer Lawrence has been out of the limelight for quite a while now. It seems strange that her career has almost went off a cliff since Harvey Weinstein was locked up, and of course she worked closely with Harvey. So don't know what happened there with Jennifer, but she's went on a bit of a downward trajectory. Let's hope she gets back, because she is a good actor. Innuendo and whatnot aside, I don't know where I was going with that innuendo, incidentally. It does say that she has been joined by a truly talented roster. It's going to include the likes of Leonardo. In fact, I'll bring the tweet up from Netflix. Leonardo DiCaprio is going to be joining Jennifer Lawrence, Rob Morgan, Meryl Streep, Kate Blanchett, Jonah Hill, Hamish Patel, we all love Hamish, Timothée Chalamet, he's in there again, Ariana Grande, Kid Cudi, Matthew Perry, and Thomas Sisley. I don't even know where to begin with this cast. It is a truly stunning cast, and as I did say, he is the guy who gave us Vice. This looks like a match made in heaven, man. This guy knows how to get a performance out of star-studded actors, a star-studded cast, I should say. And you look at the story concept. I'm going to bring down this graphic now, because there's no need for it. You look at the concept of the story. It's going to follow a pair of low-level astronomers who discover that Earth will soon be destroyed by a giant asteroid that is on a collision course with the planet. They set out together to go on a media tour to try and warn the world, and knowing Mackay's sensibilities, it will probably not be the easiest gig. Man, this is going to be full of satire. It's going to be full of climate change warnings and all sorts of other things. He's going to bring it together very well. We don't yet know, that it's still very much early doors in terms of who these guys are going to be playing, these actors, but man, I don't think I can speak highly enough of Netflix and the glittering array of talent that they are now beginning to attract into their service. This was a service which a decade ago was probably still shipping out DVDs to houses. It was like a glorified rental service. Now they are bringing in names like Martin Scorsese, the Coen brothers, Adam McKay, the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio coming in to star in movies. Ryan Reynolds is in there. We've got Dwayne Johnson doing action movies on this service. Meryl Streep. These are like the A-list, the sort of pinnacle of Hollywood, who would normally have looked down their nose at streaming services like this, now coming in, want to work on roles in movies by the likes of McKay for their streaming service. This is a sign of the times. Streaming services are now starting to change the game. They really are. We spoke about it last night. I spoke about it 2 days ago as well. Streaming wars. All these big, huge Titanic companies restructuring their sort of strategies for the future, focusing on streaming movies, focusing on TV shows, and bringing in ridiculous talent to boot. It's exciting times to be a fan of film. I love going to theatres myself, but I equally like lying back in my bed or on a couch watching great movies on a TV, and man, we're going to get some great movies, and this one looks like the latest in a long line. But look guys, I am going to move on to the section of the show which I fondly like to call the blog rundown. It's where I break down the previous free movie reviews on our blog by our fantastic writers, which I didn't touch upon on a previous show. As you can see there is the link if you want to go along and read some truly stupendous movie reviews. It's at movieburnerentertainment.org/blog. And coming in first on the blog rundown tonight is a DM Dave Anderson review. It's Enter the Fat Dragon, a movie which, incidentally, it's Phai Long Guao Gong is the original title. I've butchered it. I butcher English most times. I'm Scottish. Try to speak Chinese or whatever is going to be very, very difficult for me. But this is a Donnie Yen movie, and by all accounts a remake of a 1978 movie of the same name. I didn't know the 1978 movie existed, and to be quite frank, until tonight when I read this review, I wasn't aware that this movie existed either. I am a big fan of Donnie Yen. He is a truly talented guy. He's acrobatic. He's a great martial artist. A brilliant actor, as Dave does say. He brings real emotion to the roles, and he brings a star-studded sort of box office guarantee to movies. He's like the sort of Asian version of Dwayne Johnson. This guy, if he's in a movie, you know he's going to bring his A game. And if the movie around about him shit, then at least he is an entertaining watch in and of himself. And he does say he's in danger of becoming a Nick Cage, but Nick Cage is like what I just mentioned. The movie can be shite, but Nick always brings an absolutely ridiculous eccentric performance, and you can't take your eyes off him, man. And people forget Nick is a previous Academy Award winner for Best Actor. This is a guy who is derided now, but truly brilliant actor. But let digress, man. Here's the summary of this movie. Ultimately, Enter the Fat Dragon can't take that movie title series. Coasts on the novelty of its funny title, an action star willing to sit in the make-up chair a few more hours each day, remove both, and you still have the same plot, the same characters, and the same jokes. Funny or otherwise, the action and its star make the film watchable, though Donnie Yen is flirting with becoming Hong Kong's own Nick Cage. Probably blasphemous calling this a Chinese movie then, and speaking about Donnie as being a Chinese man, Hong Kong is almost like its own republic. They don't like China, do they? They don't like their political manoeuvrings and the way that they are starting to just embed their claws into their backs in a metaphorical manner, with all these rules and laws and whatnot. But look, it's about a fat guy, a cop, and him having to take people down. Acrobatics involved, amazing action sequences which save the shit story by all accounts. Sort of a cliched story. Is it something I would watch? I can't sit here and say I would, because it isn't. I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee in the Enter the Dragon movie, which we have a poster for at some point, somewhere located in this room. But not a fan of Enter the Fat Dragon by the sounds of it. So I'm going to move on to the second review on that note, and it's Force of Nature. This is another DM Dave Anderson movie review. This is a Mel Gibson movie, yeah, I say it's a Mel Gibson movie, but by all accounts he plays a bit part role in this. He just moans and coughs and derides his daughter, and that's really all he does. He phones it in, a la sort of Bruce Willis sort of modern day performance, and yeah, he's just attached to bring some extra eyeballs into the movie, and perhaps it works, perhaps it doesn't. Emil Hirsch though, fantastic actor too, really like that guy. I've enjoyed him in most movies he's in. This sounds like an interesting concept to me. Dave does say that its best moments involve a cat, so perhaps it's not interesting enough for me to perhaps watch, but the actual concept is intriguing to me. Was it Equalizer 2? The Denzel movie, which was set at the end in the midst of a hurricane in a Floridian town. Is that even right? Florida town we'll go with. And of course we had that other one recently, the crocodile one, which was set in a hurricane too. I like these disaster movies, which are action sort of mystery thriller movies, if you like, set within the sort of boundaries of a disaster concept, a hurricane or something like that, or a tornado. I like it when it's done well. I don't know if this has been done well because I haven't seen the movie. I've just read Dave's review, and he says it's just a little bit of cliched moments, characters forgetting where they are, forgetting what's going on in the movie. They're getting chased with sort of thugs and whatnot, and losing their sort of intelligence in their brain just for plot devices, just to allow the movie to move along a pace. And you're supposed to suspend your disbelief, and Dave can't do it, sadly. But look, here's and I wouldn't be able to do it either. Here's a summary though. The best moments belong to the cat. I want to see this cat, who is floating around during the hurricane, category 5 no less, which is almost never shown, but eventually does figure into the story. Sure, it's a supremely silly and predictable plot device, but genuinely funny nonetheless. Elsewhere, Force of Nature could have used more of the same craziness to elevate it above generic video fodder. That disappoints me, because Mel's better than that. I think Mel should just stick to directing movies now. He's a supremely talented director. No one can take that from him, despite his racial anti-Semitic comments at times. He's definitely a great director. Sadly, it looks like, as Dave does say, his best acting days are firmly in the rear-view mirror, and I don't really care, really, because, as I did say, he's a better director. Stick to the directing, Mel. But look, I'm moving on to the third and final movie review on tonight's blog rundown section of a show, and it's The Room. Not to be confused with the Brie Larson Oscar-baiting movie, and certainly not to be confused with Tommy Wiseau's absolute disaster of a drama movie. I think it was drama. I've never seen it. I've seen the highlights, and I've seen the Disaster Artist, which of course famously deconstructed what went on behind the scenes in said movie. This isn't any of those movies though. This is a Christian Volkmann movie, and it stars the likes of Olga Kurylenko, of course, of James Bond fame, I want to say. Perhaps Casino Royale. It's been a while since I've watched it. Was it? If you're watching this, put me out of my misery. I can't be arsed searching it up. But by all accounts, this is a very intriguing movie. It came from the, I believe, the horror streaming service Shudder. One of the few I don't subscribe to. Perhaps I should write that wrong, because I'm a fan of horror when it's done well. And it seems to me a streaming service wholly dedicated to producing horror movies will throw up quite a few interesting ones. But look, this is based on a sort of concept of an Aladdin type concept. 3 wishes from a genie. You get granted any wish you want, and this couple, they start doing that. They apparently they move into a dilapidated fixer-upper whose previous owners were murdered. They start being granted wishes, I do believe. Like any story, yeah, they do. They get pregnant and they start wishing for all these things and whatnot, and they get something happens. I can't read into it because Dave hasn't actually told us what happens in this story. He doesn't want to give the game away. By all accounts, the reveal is pretty interesting, and the story really does go up a pace thereafter. And it's really, there's some connection to the murder documents of the house and whatnot, and yeah, he does say this: despite those lofty ideas, The Room never forgets to be a horror film, but rather than relying on cheap scares, it methodically builds dread, coming to a head with a conclusion that might linger with the viewer longer than the credits roll. A smart film with solid performances and a lot of surprises, even if you have read The Monkey's Paw. This one's a keeper. It sounds interesting to me. I do like psychological movies that are a little bit slow burn, that don't utilise on cheap parlour tricks all the time. They try to do a cerebral type of horror storytelling, and that's the best type of horror storytelling. When horror is done right, it is truly the best genre in the industry. There's nothing quite like it, man. But look, I'm done. I haven't seen any of the movies, sadly, but Dave may have twisted my arm to watch a couple of them. Certainly not that first one, though, and perhaps not even the sort of disaster movie with action things and Mel Gibson in there. But that last one certainly intrigued me. But look, guys, going to round it up by urging you to go over to movieburnerentertainment.org/blog. Once again, if you want movie reviews without any ulterior motives, without any hidden agendas, you will get some great written movie reviews over there. But look, I'm going to move on, and I'll actually thank the writer, and I was about to say writers. I'll thank Dave once again for writing some brilliant reviews that I can talk about during the show. But look, I'm going to move on, guys, to the penultimate topic on the show tonight, and it's a sort of dual topic. I was originally going to slant this via the casting of one Sarah Shahi, but instead I've seen this little article connected to it. It's coming from MovieWeb, and it's all about Black Adam wanting the Aladdin star Marwan Kenzari as Sabbac. Now, he of course played the villain in Aladdin and Jafar, and he was very, very good in it. I loved the interpretation. In some ways it was perhaps one of the few improvements on the original Aladdin movie. You're certainly never going to build on Robin Williams' performance. That was a career-defining performance for me. I mean, he had some great movies, but that voice work was truly up there. And you've seen it in the behind-the-scenes with him, man, how into that role he was. And that just sums the guy up in general. He really divulged and put a lot of energy into his roles, if you like. But look, I'm not talking about Robin Williams. I'm not talking about the original. We're talking about Marwan Kenzari, potentially playing Sabbac, a villainous Sabbac role. He is There's rumours that he's going to be announced pretty shortly. They are looking to bring the man in. They do say here in this article, as I'm going to read out, over the summer we learned the movie was set to include members of the Justice Society of America. But since then, DC fans have been wondering who the villain was going to be. For now, it looks like Sabbac could be the big bad in Black Adam. Aladdin star Marwan Kenzari is reportedly in talks to play Ishmael Gregor Sabbac in Black Adam. The villain has been a member of the DC team since the 1940s. Along with Shazam, the Ishmael Gregor version of Sabbac was first introduced in 2004 and was created by Jude Winnick and Tom Rainey. The Gregor version of the character tracked down the original older host of Sabbac and killed him to obtain his powers in the comics. And that sounds like a beautiful, poetic sort of villain to have for Black Adam. A man who became the next champion, the next Shazam, and he went off the rails and became an evil version of it. And that seems like the perfect villain. And I love the concept that we are getting a villain like that, and that it seems like Black Adam himself is going to be portrayed as a good guy perhaps in this movie. As I'm going to get into in this next article, and I'll bring it up just now, just for the kicks of it. Sarah Shahi is going to be, she's going to be acting opposite Dwayne Johnson in this movie, and they're suggesting that she could play a sort of love interest to the Black Adam character. It says, and I'll try and find the exact moment where it says it. This also might indicate that Shahi will be given the calibre of the role is playing Adriana Thomas, a crucial love interest in Black Adam's post New 52 comic stories, who also happens to be a modernised reinvention of DC's ancient amulet. I'm trying to find it here, but my site is god awful, so I'm going to continue to read off of the iPad, which is not ideal, but it's going to happen anyway. Ancient amulet empowered superheroine Isis, strange name, from the 1975-76 half-hour live-action television series, once coupled with the Shazam series to make an hour-long block. Yes, this sounds interesting. She's a sardonic super hacker from a dystopic alternate near future. I like what they're doing with this movie, man. I have to say, I hope this movie does come out. There has been rumours that it's been put in a sort of developmental hell, that there is no preordained sort of release for this movie as of yet. It, of course, get delayed indefinitely, but that little sort of concept art, narration heavy teaser trailer we got at the DC fandom event whetted my anticipatory juices. I love Dwayne Johnson. I've been following this guy since he was a rock in wrestling back in the mid to late 90s. I've been watching this guy for 25 years, 20 odd years anyway. Big fan of the guy, and him playing a superhero is just a match made in heaven. He has a borderline superhero physique anyway, and you just know the guy's going to put his heart and soul into it. And the sooner we get this movie, the sooner we get this character established in cinematic lore, the sooner we can get him bouncing off of the likes of Zachary Levi as Shazam, and just implement himself into this DC EU as well. So I hope this happens. I hope it happens pretty soon. I don't know enough about Sarah Shahi to know anything about her as a sort of actor and what she's going to bring to the role, but what I will say is DC and Warner Brothers have been hitting the ball out of the park recently with their casting choices in the Batman, and obviously Flash bringing back Michael Keaton and stuff like that. They have been making some really astute choices. Sadly, they lost away with Amber Heard and Aquaman. I don't know what they were thinking with her, an absolute sociopathic bitch of a woman, but we're all allowed a mistake every now and then, and so that would probably, as I'm getting at, tangent aside about Amber Heard, Amber Heard, would indicate that this is a good choice, that she has been doing a lot of work in TV shows in the main, and they're bringing in some other really cool cast and crew in general. Jean Calais Serra is going to be directing the movie, and they've got some really interesting writers on to do the screenplay, so it's an interesting concept from the get-go. The character's very cool. You've got a title, a guy who just his box office gold. He's going to bring money in, he's going to bring bums onto seats and eyeballs onto the screen. Now you're bringing in perhaps Marwan, I forgot his name even now, Kenzari. He's a great actor. He's not got a hugely memorable name, but he was really good as Jafar. I hope he does play Sabbac. I hope we get a cool villain like that in this movie, and we can get it into production and out onto the screens as soon as possible. But look guys, I ain't got much more to add to that topic, so I'm going to move on to the final topics, a little bit more light-hearted. Not that last one wasn't light-hearted, but it's all about this Star Wars Lego holiday special. And we have confirmation that one Kelly Marie Tran, she was out speaking fairly recently about how she hadn't yet shut the door on a potential return to her Star Wars character of Rose Tico. She says at that point that it would have to be something really worthwhile. Well, it looks like worthwhile in Kelly Marie Tran's world is a Lego animated movie and a remake of the holiday special, no less. Not an out-and-out remake, of course. There'll be no Lumpiwaru in this, and Here's Your Daddy. There'll be no Carrie Fisher singing, and there'll be no Donald Trump-esque Mark Hamill portraying a very strange incarnation of Luke Skywalker. Hopefully it'll be a better holiday special. But yeah, look, she's going to be back. Billy D. Williams is going to be joining her. And everybody's favourite android, C-3PO. It's going to be a droid. Android, that's strange. But it's technically correct. Anthony Daniels is going to be portraying the role. I'm getting discombobulated. I'm discombobulating myself here, guys. I'm talking so much that I'm actually putting myself off. But he's going to be back. I've got my dog sniffing my leg here. It's very, very strange. I don't know what he's doing. I wish he'd lie down. But he's going to be back portraying the C-3PO character anyway. And look, I slag off Anthony all the time. He goes down rabbit holes on Twitter and stuff like that. But this guy's got such a dulcet voice. He's got an iconic voice. It's synonymous with this character. This character's synonymous with some of the happiest moments in my childhood watching movies. Star Wars, the original Star Wars movies. And it's great to see him coming back once again. What would Anthony do if he didn't have C-3PO in any vein, be it in a video game or a movie, to voice? If he didn't have that opportunity, where would he be? He'd be in convention halls, and you can't even do that just now because of the pandemic. So it's great to see that Anthony's back. He's getting some work. Lord knows he probably needs it. And Billy D's back as well, and I love Billy D. He's a great actor, iconic. He's been in so many great roles, and Lando's one of my all-time favourite characters. I love doing impressions of him, which I'll hold off of doing just now. There'll be no pirates and will you get going here. But look, I'm glad for Kelly Marie Tran as well. That's, I suppose, what I'm going to get into. The Rose Tico character was seriously maligned. She was wrong done to. She wasn't the most interesting character in the movies, let's be honest. She was a deeply dull character, poorly written. But that wasn't down to Kelly Marie Tran. That was down to the horrendous choice of director, of a president at Lucasfilm, and hidden agendas forcing a character like her onto the screen for no apparent reason. And I just hope that the actor can now get a chance to semi-redeem that absolute shit show that was The Last Jedi and the shit show that was The Rise of Skywalker by giving us a larger-than-life voice acting performance as the character. Hopefully she gets something a little bit more enlightening, something a little bit more heavy to do in this movie, because Lord knows she ain't going to be getting joined by the likes of John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, Oscar Isaac or Adam Driver. They have severed ties with Star Wars, and some would say smartly. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make about this. I'm happy to see it's kind of premiering on Disney Plus, this little animated Lego thing. The Lego Star Wars stuff has been great over the years, the video games and whatnot. My dog is killing me here, man. He's absolutely killing me. Don't know what he's doing. Perhaps it's a spider, Lord knows. But I'm going to quickly round this show up anyway. I'm going to bring up this article very briefly before I do so, though, just to show again a little holiday special Lego Star Wars poster. What a beautiful poster it is. To Luke from your father, and it's his hand with a bow tie. Of course, he got his hand severed on Bespin Cloud City. Great little bit of artwork, showing a sense of humour, something that's usually missing from Lucasfilm and Disney. And yeah, it's streaming on November 17th. As I said, don't know what to make about it, but I will watch it. You can be goddamn sure about that. I have a subscription to Disney Plus. Big Star Wars fan. And why not? I'll watch it. But look, guys, I'm going to round the show up on that note by passing over some questions to your good selves. If you have indeed been watching this show and you've somehow got to the end of the show and get through all my absolute nonsense, all the tangents, the gibbering, everything. What do you make about the topics I spoke about? What do you make about that headline, The Mandalorian? Will he ever get his own movie? Or will he be consigned to Disney Plus, life on the small screen on Disney Plus forever and ever? Do you agree with me that it's going to be at least 3-4 years before we see anything even remotely resembling a movie like that? Or do you think it's something that could happen in the near future? Do you think it will happen at all? You can comment below. What's your thoughts on Barbara Broccoli saying that a new James Bond actor has not yet been picked? Do you think, like me, it's absolute bollocks? What do you make about this Adam McKay movie, which is attracting the likes of Ariana Grande, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Meryl Streep, and a whole array of other stupendously talented actors? What do you make about the blog rundown stuff I touched upon? And finally, perhaps some truly interesting actors being cast for the upcoming Black Adam movie and the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special. You can comment below and let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future. But look, if you do, you'll get more content like that. But until then, bye bye. I screwed that ending up there, guys, but it's done now. Bye.